Hello and welcome to Retro Reviews, my channel where I review my favorite retro video games of all time as well as some modern releases I have recently finished. The retro game that I want to look at today is Disney's Epic Mickey. I'll be looking a lot at the Rebrushed version, the remaster that they just released. I will be reviewing the Nintendo Switch version specifically. I'm not positive if the issues I had on this game were from the Switch version specifically or if it's just a bad build or a bad remaster, because I had first and foremost some pretty egregious loading times. And I could attribute that to the Switch, but the cartridges should have been pretty fast, so I'm not really sure. If you have any insight there, if you've played the PS5 or Xbox version, let me know. I would love to hear if there's a sizable difference in the loading times there. But I will be talking about some of the issues I had with that version specifically, and I won't be addressing the PS5 or Xbox versions here. So Disney's Epic Mickey came out on the Wii way back in the day. I want to say 2008. I can't remember specifically. And it was awesome. It was a really fun game. I remember playing it. I remember enjoying it. It utilized the Wii motion controls like, most Wii games did, but it did it in a really ingenious way with the aiming and everything, utilizing paint versus thinner to either build things in the world or to erase things from the world to find secrets or advance through the storyline, the platform around the world. It was a very ingenious idea, and the way that they built this game, they built it around the idea that Mickey goes through the magic mirror in his room. He sees this wizard creating this world with a paintbrush. He decides he wants to go in and try it as well, as mischievous as he is. He starts to do some stuff with the paintbrush, accidentally spills thinner into the world, and it creates a monster that starts to envelop the world. Everything starts to change. He gets scared, he runs away, time passes, and then the monster reaches through the mirror, grabs him, pulls him into the world, and he's forced to fight this monster known as the Blot in order to try and save this world that he has ultimately been destroying with the paint thinner. It's a really interesting premise, and even on top of this, the world itself was designed by the wizard to be like a home for all the forgotten properties from Disney. So all the old characters, specifically Oswald the Rabbit, and then a lot of the old cartoons that they were in and everything. Some of the characters that were background characters feature in many different NPC roles. It's very, very charming. And if you're a Disney buff, if you really like Disney properties, especially the old stuff, it's really cool. It was a nice nostalgia trip way back then. All sorts of collectibles that give you insight into like the art or like little scenes from the old movies that they're referencing and everything. It's very, very charming. And it's even cooler now because my kids have watched all of the stuff on Disney Plus, like all the really old cartoons that are included there now. So like, oh, I recognize this when it's featured in the game, and that's kind of cool to see. I did enjoy that, and I did play this with my kids. They had a really fun time. They really wanted to keep playing the Mickey game, and it was a good old time. But I have plenty of gripes with this game. Namely, it does not feel as good as it did back on the Wii. I'm not sure what that is. Not sure if it's now I'm not using a Wii remote and pointing at the screen. Utilizing a controller just doesn't feel quite the same. I didn't really want to play with the motion controls most of the time. I just don't feel like they're all that fun. I remember it being a lot more fun on the Nintendo Wii, and I also remember it being a lot faster. I remember it being having significantly less loading times. The biggest gripe that I have with this game that really took me out of the experience is the loading time going from one world to Mean Street, the main hub of the game. Every time you go back to Mean Street, it takes up to 1 minute of loading time. I've been accustomed to the fast loading times of the PlayStation 5 and even the Nintendo Switch. The Switch has been really good. Before the newest generation of consoles came out, having a cartridge really cuts back on load times. Before they introduced solid-state drives, that was actually the fastest way to get the slowest loading times, for the most part at least. And now it just seems like everything is so much faster, and so now these loading times are just feel so long. And I don't remember them being that long back on the Wii. I might be mistaken. They might have been just as long. Maybe this remastered build just utilizes the same kind of stuff, and so it doesn't matter what technology it's using. It's just a bad build, and so the load times are going to be bad across every platform. I'm not sure what it is, but it was pretty awful. The load times really killed the experience for me overall. It brought me down from enjoying the game to really loathing going back to Mean Street specifically. And even going to other worlds, it would take 10-20 seconds to load. It's not a short load time for anything that you do, and you will be jumping into load screens quite a bit in this game. You'll have your main 3D areas that you go through, like Mean Street or other like worlds that you enter, but to get between the world and the next place that you're going through, you jump through projector screens, and they will transport you to one of the old like films from back in the day. So you'll be traversing the areas, which are very lovingly created. I think they do a really fantastic job. Again, like seeing these on Disney Plus and watching them over again, they did a really great job recreating them and giving you like ways to platform throughout them. It's really ingenious, honestly. So I do like the charm surrounding it. I think it's really gorgeous, and the way that they do these little sections. And once you've passed through the section one time, you can then skip it later on by talking with the gremlin next to the projector screen. These are NPCs found throughout the world that help you progress, help you like solve things. If you free a lot of the gremlins, you have like one accompanying you the entire time named Gus. You can free other ones. They might assist you in opening up an area that you might not have been able to access before if you are able to find them and free them from their cage. You can talk to the gremlin Gus next to these projector screens and skip it for 10 e-tickets. Tickets are found throughout the world by destroying objects or platforming throughout these little projector screen areas. It's a much easier way. I unfortunately forgot about it and didn't utilize that for quite a while in the game. Once you do it, you can skip those projector screens because it can be a little bit tedious if you're going back to the same world over and over again for like little fetch quests and stuff. So doing it one time is fantastic. Doing it multiple times can be a little tedious. Fortunately, they had a workaround for that. Now, the best thing about this game is that it's very dedicated to the old Disney properties. It's very dedicated to the theming and everything. They do a very good job of making this feel like you're at a dilapidated Disneyland type thing, with Oswald being the feature character. He's the king of the land, and he's been kind of overthrown or usurped by the Blot, and you're trying to help him, but he despises you because of how he was the original character that Walt Disney made. Now Mickey's the star. There's a lot of tension there from Mickey Mouse and Oswald, and Mickey doesn't know much about the problems here. He doesn't understand what's going on. All he knows is that he caused the accident in the first place, and he doesn't really want to tell anybody. The worst thing about this game, unfortunately, is how it feels to play around. Like I said earlier, the Wii motion controls were fun. You use your paint to like build things in. There'll be stuff that you can see a definitive outline. It's a different like texture from the other things in the world. And if you paint it, it will create a platform there or create like an image there, something like that, fill in the gap. Or if you use the paint thinner with the opposite side, like you click R to use the paint, you click L to use the thinner. If you use the thinner on it, it will make it disappear. This can, like I said previously, open up hidden paths. This can like create areas that you can platform on. If it's like something blocking the way, now you've got a little platform you can jump on. It's a really fun mechanic. You can also use it to fight the enemies. Certain enemies will come from the paint thinner. They come from the Blot itself, and they manifest themselves in different ways. And if you shoot them with enough paint, they become friendly and they help you out. If you shoot them with enough thinner, they disappear and they go into the ground, and you get some tickets for it. You also do the same thing with the bosses. There are 2 different ways to take down every major boss in this game, and depending on how you do it, you'll get a different outcome in the final cutscenes. So if you help them, you get like a little bit more positive ending cutscene to go along with everything. If you don't help them, you end up like destroying them, and the world suffers just a little bit for it. It's not a huge difference, but it will change your like paint thinner capacity or your paint capacity based on how you help them. Now, here comes to some of my other gripes. Exploring the world is very slow. If you click the run button, it doesn't look like much changes. You don't see Mickey Mouse do a whole lot in his animation change, and so it just feels really tedious to get around. The platforming is fairly basic. This is a THQ Nordic game. This feels very much like the old SpongeBob games, but not quite as charming in some ways, and it feels a little bit, again, tedious to move around the world. There's not many movement options. You're just walking or running around. You double jump. You can spin with the paintbrush to like get a little bit of extra height and a little bit of extra like hang time in the air. There we go. So it's very one-dimensional the way you move around the world, and painting and thinning all the enemies is really boring. There's no real combat in this game. Despite having a paintbrush that you can swing around and knock things around, it doesn't stop them from moving unless you knock them into a vat of paint thinner. And like, it's just not the most exciting in terms of like actually playing the game. The world that they've built is infinitely more exciting than it is to explore, and that's the most unfortunate thing. On top of that, if you're not like checking out all the collectibles that you get, the film reels in the film, like the movie theater in Mean Street, or you're like not using the extra stuff, if you don't care about the collectibles, they really do nothing for you. I like collecting collectibles because it's that part of my monkey brain that says, "Ooh, I got a collectible, be happy now." I like collectibles a lot, and for that regard, but I didn't find myself really enjoying finding them in this game over time. At first it felt really exciting, and then it just got more and more boring. And on top of that, some of the boss fights that I was able to go at just didn't work if I was trying to do the save them method and use paint over thinner. It just didn't work. The game would break sometimes, and I could not tell you why, especially toward the end. There was one boss I'm like, I'm going to save this one no matter what. And the game broke, and it would not let me do the saving them method. I tried reloading the save. I tried like Xing out of the game and starting it back up. Nothing. I had no choice but to use the thinner method. And I ended up doing that for every single boss. And it was kind of annoying because I wanted to play the game differently and the game kept not working. On top of that, there were other times where there were stutters, and to the point where we'd have like either frame skips or like stuttering and everything, or a full-on stop for up to like 1 or 2 seconds in a row. And usually it was while I was in the air trying to platform through something, and all of a sudden I'd be falling to my death because it didn't just stop. My character kept moving, but I didn't see them because it's frozen on screen, and then I'm falling to my doom. It was so exceptionally frustrating. I could not believe this was a rebrushed remaster here, because this game feels like it's full of cracks, and it sucks because of that. That's the worst thing about this game, is that it's not very fun to play as it is. It's fun to explore the world. It's very charming if you like Disney properties and stuff. But if it's not very fun to play, and it has a bunch of stuttering issues throughout the experience, or game-breaking bugs that will stop you from doing the ending the way you want to do it, it just becomes a really big eyesore for me. And that's what it ultimately ended up being for me. Despite really enjoying the game on the Wii, the rebrushed version does not feel like a good remaster. And it's really a shame, because I would like to see them do an Epic Mickey 2 remaster. That one didn't get nearly as much love. I think the original one sold a couple million copies or something like that. The second one, despite being multi-platform, going off of the Wii and on the PlayStation and Xbox, it didn't sell nearly as well. That one was really charming too, and had a co-op, and I would love to see that in modern times. But if they're going to do the same treatment that they did to this one, that game has absolutely no hope, because it just does not feel like a lot of fun. If you've happened to play the PlayStation 5 or Xbox version, let me know if the load times are better, if the build is better, if there's like no stuttering or anything. It might just be a Switch issue. I got this one from the library. I checked it out so I could play it for free, so I didn't have a chance to play any of the other versions. So if there are better versions, if it's much better on those other platforms, please let me know in the description below. I might do some more research on that as well, and maybe I'll do a follow-up video if I find anything substantial. But it really hampered my experience and made it just so much worse. The original game, I probably would have scored much higher, especially if I had reviewed it way back at launch. I probably would have given it a very high ranking. But for this rebrushed version, I think beyond all the technical issues and everything, it's just not as fun. And I think this game doesn't play as well in modern times. There's so many more modern conventions. They could have like changed the speed of the game a little bit, but it just doesn't feel very good to play. So I'm going to give this one, because of how well they built the world, I'm going to give it the tiniest bit of grace here, because I do enjoy a good Disney themed everything. It is very charming in a lot of ways. I think the first couple acts actually are fairly well paced. The third act is incredibly slow, and I could not believe how long it took to finally get to the ending. It felt like it was dragging on for a couple of hours. The third act is so mundane and tediously slow. That was another big issue for me. But the first and second act, I had a lot more fun. It felt more rounded, a much better experience. I liked the worlds and everything. I'm going to give this one in between a bronze and a silver rank. Again, because I love the original so much, and I think they did create a great world here, I will give it just a couple extra points here, but there is very little separating this from a bronze ranked game, and one that I probably wouldn't recommend. And I don't think I would recommend the Switch version. If you have like a chance to get it at a library and check it out, try the PlayStation or the Xbox version and let me know. I would love to know if it's a better experience. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.